Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to ask the big question, how did Hollow get good aim on Apex Legends? We're going to segue to some clips real quick in case you live under a rock and you don't know who soarhollow is. Check it out. Hollow, I don't know this answer. What FPS game did you even come from before Apex?
Surprised you don't know. I played Overwatch. I can tell you everything I played before Apex.
Yeah, hit me. Okay, so it was Overwatch. What was before that even?
I played Overwatch for 5,000 hours. I peaked top 10 in the ancient days where nobody was smart and you could just like kind of run around and shoot your gun. I kind of hovered around like 4.4 KSR throughout the entire time that I played.
Interesting. Okay.
I made a lot of Smurfs. A lot of one-trick Smurfs. A lot of people hate me under certain names, but I just want to have some fun. Young Schmeat, the Lucio one-trick.
And so how many hours, because I want to know the other games, how many hours would you say total across your career do you have in FPS gaming?
5,000 hours of Overwatch,
okay.
About 10,000 hours of Minecraft.
15K, got it.
So factions, Hunger Games, mini games, lots of mini games like Mineplex. Yeah. I hate Hypixel, to be honest. I was a Mineplex gamer. I think my account's level 100 over there. I wish I still had it. I played, I got to Legend in Hearthstone with like maybe 1,000 hours. I guess we could just round up to like 1,000 hours in Hearthstone.
Okay.
Another like 1,500 hours in Diablo 3. Another like maybe 700, maybe 500 hours in Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. And then a bunch of hours on like Halo on console, Wii Sports, Clash of Clans, Mario Kart on the DS. I've literally just been like hunched over a screen my whole life, I'll be honest.
Interesting. So you know what's crazy is that those aren't even FPS games. Like, so did you play a CSGO or did you play Valorant?
No,
really?
I don't have any. I've never played CS. I never played Valorant. Wow. I never played COD. I've never played a COD game. I have like maybe 30 minutes in Warzone. I hated it.
Wow, so people are going to be pretty mind blown when they watch this video. Honestly, they're going to be like, what? But he's insane. It's like, yeah, you are. So now I'm going to segue to the next question. I want you to break this down. When you loaded up Apex Legends, what in the world did you do to try to even get better? Let's start with number one. What did you do to try to get better at this game?
Okay, so I had the luxury of playing the game at the very, like on launch day, practically. My friend who I was playing Overwatch with at the time, my tank duo, he told me about this game and he told me to download it and to play it together. And we ran into a lot of Overwatch streamers when we were like first running it together. And even though the game was like running really bad on my PC, I just fell in love with it. And the whole idea of getting good at it wasn't really something that I realized was the reason why I was playing it so much. But, you know, after kind of looking back and reverse engineering my playtime, and just kind of being as introspective as I can. I was bad at the BR and I wanted to get better at it, but I fell in love with the FPS aspect of it, just because it felt a lot more, I don't know what the word would be. I guess like, just felt a lot more substantial than Overwatch did. Overwatch still is like, yeah. I still think it's a better game and I love playing it even now, but I just fell in love with the gunplay and everything. Getting consciously better was not something that I did for like the first couple of years. More like the first year and a half of playing the video game. I just kind of played and I just loved playing, and I played a lot. And what happens when you play a lot and you just love the video game is you're improving at everything all at once, but very, very, very slowly, right?
Yeah.
Granted, I was already really good at Overwatch. Like I was a GM top 500 level player on every role at one point. And I mean, certainly not now. That game is very different now.
Yeah.
But like I was really good at the game then, and so it just felt nice to take the skills that I had learned over the however many hours I played Overwatch and learn to kind of express them differently in Apex. So
to sum it up, like, is it fair to say?
I didn't feel any pressure to get better. I didn't feel any pressure to get better because the game had just came out and everybody was bad. It's obviously a lot different than now where everybody's very consciously trying to get better because the game's been out for 5.5 years and they're just trying to catch up. But I didn't really do anything, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the same approach that you should take.
Yeah, but I think that what sums it up there, and if it's fair to recap that, have fun, right? Enjoy what you're doing. Maybe people come with the wrong mindset of just like, because it sounds like what you have is a lot of passion, fixation, because you just
hyperfixation.
Yeah, it's
I'm neurodivergent. I was hyperfixated on the game for a long time, and I'd never stop playing it. And a lot of people with improvement, a lot of people fall in love with the destination of how good they're going to get. And that's a valid strategy. Don't get me wrong. Like, you can fall in love with the result and you can crave the result. Even if you really want to get good really fast, you have to fall in love with the journey. You have to enjoy the process every step of the way, because in enjoying the process, you remember and internalize things a lot more. You know, it's like taking something that's very monotonous and boring and turning it into like a fun song so that you can memorize it better. I guess it would be like the closest thing. Because I remember my first 20 bomb very vividly, and I remember exactly everything that I did to do it, and because I was having so much fun doing it, and because all of the attempts that I failed it, I was still having a lot of fun. Like, I was able to internalize all of my mistakes and fix them very quickly, you know?
If we were to reverse engineer this, let's say if you were to go back to your old self, even during the Overwatch days, could you show in the test range 1 or even 2 exercises that would be beneficial for somebody who, let's say, doesn't have the time to be fixated, but to just play all the time, but internalize how you would go about any sort of exercise in the range to improve?
New gen Apex players are spoiled with this range, I'll be honest. If you're very new to the game, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do in here. I'll just kind of rapid fire. If you're very new to the game, you need to go into the firing range. I'm pretty sure every legend is free. I'm pretty sure they made every legend free in the firing range. If not, then my bad. But go into the firing range and learn what every legend's ability does, and learn what every character is capable of doing. There's so many new players that get very paralyzed, analysis paralysis, with like how many different characters there are. But Apex's core gameplay is the exact same across every single character that you can play. The amount of knowledge that you actually have to have, you know, with regards to abilities and all of that kind of stuff, like, that doesn't really, it's not that deep, you know? Like, Wraith goes invincible, makes portal, and then has voices in her head, right? Next character, you know? And that's all you really need to know. And then you can use it as a basis from there. Another thing, I mean, I don't really like the firing range. I don't really think that this is the most useful environment for improvement, but it is like the most easy and straightforward. I would just use this as an opportunity to practice recoil on really far targets, close targets, the actual dummies themselves, because hitting a giant square is very different than hitting an actual person. A lot of people play on controller, so just get in here and get a feel for the recoil, because the learning curve that you have to have for everything else aiming related is mostly mental. Like, moving a thumbstick's really easy in this game. People are gonna hate that, but I could really talk for 2 hours about why it's better. Is
it okay to ask a question about, in terms of would it be beneficial for somebody? Because I really, it's very interesting where you're focusing more on the fundamentals to get good aim. When we're talking about fundamentals, we're almost talking about like bare basics. So with the thought process, would it be beneficial if somebody just picked up every single gun and just shot it and memorized it and got a feel for it, if they didn't lack time to actually get it in the game?
Well, I mean, everybody wants to get good aim, but they don't understand that aim is, like, there's so many other skill sets that you need to learn that interact with aim, right? Someone can have, you know, insanely high tier Kovac scores, but their ability to express that in a game is very limited. And most of the Kovacs players, or just any aim trainer player you ever see, is literally just spamming mixtape because they're not smart enough to be able to replicate that in a battle royale environment. You know what I mean? And that's not hating on them. Like, people can have fun however they want. And they can post whatever they want. But, you know, a lot of the time that is the case, right? And so my aim, the way that I learn how to aim as well as I do, is mostly brain related. Like, I play low sense, slow pad. My mouse control is not really that good. My scores in an aim trainer are also not that good. I guess one thing that I could say, like, something more, a more substantial answer to the question would be to learn how to just have like pattern recognition. So if I were to go to like the constant strafe on a standing version of the bot.
Yes.
What you can do is, there we go, run. That's what I wanted to do. So what you can do is practice the idea of developing a predictive framework for your, like when tracking someone in front of you, and understanding when to decelerate your mouse movement. Because good tracking is not this idea of like holding your, like assuming that your target is going to continue moving in the direction that they already are and then like flicking back to them. Good tracking, which is what controller can achieve through rotational aim assist, is a perfect deceleration of movement to match the speed at which the target is moving. And you can literally just sit in the firing range and look at a dummy with, you know, whatever gun, right? And just kind of develop an intuitive sense of when you need to stop you know, moving in one direction and start decelerating and pivoting to another direction. Because when Apex players change strafes, it's not like Overwatch where it's an instantaneous shift in speed and there's no acceleration. You do decelerate and then accelerate very slightly to go to the next thing. So there is like a little bit of a deceleration motion that needs to happen. I mean, another thing to note is like this dummy right here, like this guy has a very limited space to strafe between this sandbag and this sandbag for the most part.
Yeah.
And so what I can do is I can draw an imaginary line on this side and be like, all right, this person is never going to go past this, right? And so if at any point they ever reach that edge, I can automatically start moving in the opposite direction, or at least decelerate, you know? That's one thing that you can do in the range that might be helpful. Another thing that I want people to do in the range is learn how to like, I mean, strafing against a bot is kind of dumb, I'll be honest. But what I want a lot of people to do more is instead of trying to like spam strafe in front of somebody's face, what I want people to try to do is I want people to try to like strafe out of a bot's FOV, you know? So like people can't shoot you if they can't see you. So if I'm fighting this bot here and I'm behind them now, oh, that's Freelo, right?
Yeah.
But if I'm saying, if my hitbox is exposed to this guy in front of me, what I'm doing is I'm basically hoping that when I strafe, I'm displacing my hitbox enough within their field of view to avoid damage so that I can then return enough damage. But like stuff like this, oh, I'm behind the guy.
Yeah.
Get used to looking at where the dummies are looking. That's another thing. Look at where their gun is pointed. That's probably the easiest visual indicator for that. And kind of go off of that information. Make the dummies fire at you so that they look at you the entire time. I'm pretty sure they do. I can try to test that out.
Yeah, they do. They stare at you pretty much when you're running
full
around.
combat. So if I'm over here with the dummy, like they do kind of stop, which is kind of annoying. But like, get used to looking at where their guns are pointed and where the dummies are looking, and internalize that, because not only can that help you with taking less damage by strafing out of their field of view, but it can also help you with positioning. It can help you with decision making, because, you know, if I'm behind 2 people or 3 people, but none of them are looking at me, I could probably, you know, kill one of them before disengaging, right? Like that's a skill that everybody needs to have, is like looking at the game from the perspective of your opponent. And the first thing that you should do in order to be able to master that is looking at their hitbox and where it's facing, you know? There's some really buggy hitbox animations in Apex that have thrown me off as a result of this, but it's not consistent enough to be too much of a problem.
I think this was great because this gives us a really big insight where it's really, you know, you see all these guides, you hear all these coaching and aim coaching and Kovacs, aim labs, and not to call any of it to be bad, but what I find
it's all great, but nobody's smart enough to know how to leverage that stuff correctly, and nobody's smart enough to articulate how people need to leverage it correctly. For the most part, there's a few people that do, but most people just kind of forget the picture.
Yeah, and I find that your approach is so simplistic. So if anybody is, again, ever looking for how you get good aim, I mean, well, here it is. I mean, it seems a lot more straightforward and a lot more realistic, the approach, compared to any guide you probably will see online. And which leads me to my next question, because it is a more of a simplistic answer that you're providing to everybody. Why do you get mad at such commonly asked questions about aiming, especially when they come in your Twitch chat?
Okay. So there's like I don't know if it's like a meme or just like a general perception of me as like a person.
Yeah.
Where a lot of people just kind of think that they can't really ask me anything. The thing is that I hate when people think that they are special in the way of asking a question that has been asked by 30,000 other people before. Quite literally. It's one of those things where if someone's asking me for genuine help or genuine advice, like, hey, Hollow, I've done this, I've done that, I'm still struggling with this, you know, what am I missing here? Can you help me out? A lot of the this is a multifaceted answer. So I'll start with the basics. If anybody asking me for my settings or my peripherals or my gear, anyone who genuinely thinks that they're the first person to ever ask that pisses me off. I hate that, because I've gone out of my way to list every single setting and every single peripheral and everything that I use in my Discord server, in the description of my stream. All people have to do is scroll down to see the about section, where people usually put like sponsor panels people forget about. I even made it to where the commands were like DM'd to people, because people would also just come in and spam commands, because it gets annoying, because it makes the whole experience of streaming feel very, very boring and monotonous, and it doesn't really, I don't know, it's not there's not much of a community sense that I feel whenever it's just a wall of dumb questions that are very easily answerable. Because it's like, dude, you're not the first person to ask that. I've gone out of my way to put that in the description right there. Please, like, just go look, you know?
I guess
like,
you could
that's the
say
first
it
thing.
feels like it undermines you because you're trying to help them, but then you just kind of get like robotic. And like it goes the opposite of community. They're not asking you more in-depth questions, just the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, and
is
then
that fair?
there's also just two-dimensional questions that people ask, which is just like, what's the best sensitivity for aim? What I try to do, what's really frustrating is it is my fault. Like, to answer your question, like, why do I get frustrated? It's on me, because what I've done is I've set myself up for failure in a live stream environment where if someone asks me a question, I'm in the middle of answering it, someone else joins and is like, oh, can you repeat that for me? Like, that doesn't work. Like, it has to be done in a much better way. But like, the way that I want to help people and the way that I want to like teach people is like, if someone asks me like, hey, Hollow, what's the best sense? I'm going to give them a very complicated answer, like a very three-dimensional perspective of, hey, sensitivity is a tool. It's a medium of expression. Whenever you train your aim, you are not training your sensitivity. You are training your skill, right? Like, your skills exist independently from the tools that you use to convey them. And your sensitivity is one of those tools. So when you ask that, not only are you offsetting the responsibility for your performance onto a setting that isn't even responsible for your performance in the first place and only just interacts with it, but you also are, thinking about things in a very two-dimensional hierarchical way, where within a given group, for example, sensitivity, X sensitivity has to exist in a relationship relative to Y sensitivity in a way of being either better or worse. But what I want to do is I want to encourage you to have a three-dimensional perspective of it and say, you know what, there isn't anything about a sensitivity that actually does make it objectively better or worse if it's just a tool that I'm using to aim with, right?
Yeah.
And what ultimately can be better or worse is me. And the thing is that when I try to give those kinds of answers, not only do people not understand them because they're looking for incredibly easy spoon-fed answers to their questions, but it's also difficult to articulate in the midst of a Twitch stream where I'm trying to play the video game and trying to get better at it. So I do take ownership of the fact that I have basically set myself up for failure by trying to cultivate an educational environment on Twitch without truly making myself aware of how the variables work. But that doesn't excuse all of the dumbass questions that people ask. What's your mouse? What's your mouse pad? You're not the first person to ask me that! Scroll down! Like, it's like that is something that I will have as a pet peeve for the rest of my life, because FPS players obsess with that kind of stuff because they see a good player and they're like, oh, this guy must be doing something different than I am. He must be using a setting that's just optimal or something different. And a lot of people love to brush it off. It's like, oh, I'm just curious. Like, no, you're not. I know exactly.
And
what
the
you're
reality
doing.
is, and we'll come full circle at the beginning of the video. You know what sounds like the defining factor is the love and care in the game. At the end of the day, just playing it. They're trying to circumvent the time by some sort of answer of like, the mouse is the reason why you're better. The pad is the reason why you have 16% better aim. When to be honest, the reality is that you cared enough to invest into the game, to look at how people are playing and memorize the patterns. And that
I'll do you one better there.
Yeah, hit me.
I'm the one moving the mouse correctly. I am the one that is familiar enough with the movement to have enough of a predictive framework to act on, right?
Yeah.
I am the one that is moving my mouse in the way that it needs to be moved. The mouse that happens to be the mouse, which is the thing that is being moved, the surface on which it is the surface on which it is being moved, the mouse pad, the screen on which that movement is being displayed, all of that stuff is for the most part inconsequential, right? It matters, but it doesn't matter in a way of like better or worse. It matters in a three-dimensional way where you you look at all of the different variables and you take everything into account. But it doesn't matter what mouse I'm using because I'm still the one that's moving it correctly. And having a god tier mouse is not going to automatically equate to you being able to move it in the way that you need to move it in order to replicate, insert clip here, right?
Yeah.
And so I hate it because it's two-dimensional. It's not actually going to help anybody get any better. And I try to cultivate better ways of thinking and better thought processes, which, I mean, a lot of the reason why the answers that I gave you for the firing range are so like shallow is because the best thing that you can do to improve at a video game is just to simply think. I was classically educated. I was taught a lot about critical thinking and the ability to simulate the same situation from multiple different perspectives and multiple different viewpoints, and always asking questions, the Socratic method, always.
So this is what we're gonna do, because I have to cut you off there, and the only reason why is because we're gonna do this part 2 on my channel, because where we get into the theory. So
I'm just yapping.
No, I think this is all great, because this video, and I'm gonna say the same thing on my own personal channel. So if you're curious, it's at Daz. We're gonna talk more about the theory on my channel, and then this one was gonna be kind of the start. So I highly recommend Hollow's gonna be doing more coaching this coming month, and you want to understand and get really actually improve. Check out his socials, check out his YouTube, check out his Twitch channel when he goes live. Be sure to support him and check him out, because the beauty behind this as well, when you go to my channel, you're going to hear more about the same theory and concept behind AIM, but you're going to need to watch this one. Now that I realize this conversation, you're going to need to watch this, because it's going to be a great stepping board. So Hollow, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about this. I think it's really important. And if you're hungry, check it out my channel. And then if you're coming from my channel to see this as the part 1, then you're in for a treat. So I appreciate all of you guys for watching. Hollow, thank you again, and we'll all see you guys in the next one.
No problem. I do actually want to help people, I promise. I'm just going to do it in an environment that actually allows for it.
There you go. Exactly. We'll see you all guys on his channel as well.